the devastation that was caused and the damage that was caused. And the best way that we can do that is, of course, by visiting Nepal. The country is a spectacular country. 8 out of 10 of the highest mountain peaks in the world are there. So anybody who is fit enough to climb, even to base camp, that's where to go. And that is quite an achievement to reach base camp itself. I'm sure some people who have already been there know all about it. We have done some work in recent times with Depeche and with other Nepalese people in relation to the Dáil and the Shannon, providing a parliamentary friendship group, and I hope that that is going to be very successful into the future. Once parliamentary links are established and an Irish parliamentary delegation goes to Nepal and the reciprocation on the Nepalese side, that will cement links that can be built on very substantially, I believe. So I'm delighted to be here with you tonight to assist in the promotion of the tourism that Depeche is doing in relation to 2017 Europe. And Depeche himself is at the heart of this. He is the main player. So this is a major promotion that I hope is going to be extremely successful. And I'd love to see us bridging the gap between Ireland, as we are a little bit down the list, but not that far down compared to our population, but in getting up there somewhere close to the United Kingdom. So there's a challenge for all of us in 2017, and let's all make an effort to see if we can take up some of the wonderful promotion that has been put forward by Depeche and the Nepalese people at the present time. So thank you all very much.
Okay, next I'd like to invite our first speaker up to the stage to regale us with his experiences on a Kathmandu bus, Mr. Christy Carey. He spent 3 weeks in Kathmandu, and instead of the walkers down roundabout, he took on the traffic of Kathmandu. So, Christy Carey.
Hi to everybody here. I'm honoured to be here tonight. This man Davis gave me a phone call there on Thursday. He rang me and said, would you mind coming to a conference? I said, how would you get my number? No, I never even heard of Nepal, I'll be honest with you. Obviously in school you would have done it, looking at Everest and all. But when I arrived there, I left here on the 30th of August and arrived there on the 31st at 9:30. And for the first night, there was three of us over there. There was Jerry, the director, Aidan, the producer, and Ken, the cameraman. And me and Ken arrived there on the 31st, and he was at the when we got there, Jerry was at the giving us the rundown, and he told me, he said, the deals in the dance, and the deals in the dance was, when you're meeting the women, you don't put your hands on their hands, or you don't hug them. And when I met the family for the first night, unfortunately, the mother, fortunately for the mother, I went to give her a hug and a kiss, and she was looking at me, she's like, who's this big but within a day or two, she took me on as one of her own sons, because what she said to me was, and I was honoured when she said this, she goes, I have 3 sons, I have 4 sons now. And my first son, your name is Kazaram Pandi. And from there, it just went on. The experience with the family got me through. The program that you would have seen, I would have struggled without my own family. The love within the family got me through the 9 or 10 days that I was there. The culture, as Alison said, it's lovely. It's only when you go into Dunbar's, into the square, and you see all the old buildings, it's absolutely astonishing. But the devastation from the earthquakes that you see afterwards is very, very sad. But one thing that I learned from my trip there is the people over there are so loving. They're so warm. I mean, what they're going through, what we go through each day, we think we have a hard here. When you go over there and you look at these people, they have nothing. But one thing they do have, and we're right off about them, is they have a big smile on their face and they're so warm. The other thing is the buses. I'll have to sort some out that the buses are there. Especially that clutches. The gearbox is upside down. It took me a while to get into it. As we seen on the programme, J-Ram, he was trying to tell me at one stage, he was kind of going, give it over, I'm going to do it. But it was a trip of a lifetime, and as I said, it was at the right time of my life. I've got 3 young kids. Jake is 19, Josh is 17, and Sarah is 15, my princess, and it was the right time for me to make a trip over there and it live with me for the rest of my life. So with this promotion tonight, I hope by talking it will push people to go out to Nepal. And John, fair play to Nepal. The best of luck to you. I mean, it's a big, big thing. People, as they said, nobody can just say, I'm going here, or you're going to Sugarloaf Mountain, as you would have done with your skill and all. So it's a big thing, and fair play to Nepal. What else can I say? The food. I'm easy with food. There's one thing, I'm not really a meat eater. The rice, if at home, it's either turkey or chicken. I only started eating roast beef the last 4 or 5 years. I see a little bit of fat like but I have to say, the food and all over there, the family, what they put on for me every evening was just lovely. One thing I felt not strange, but it was probably the way it was back in the 60s, living in Ireland, is that when we come home after doing a day's work, his wife and his mother would do the food, but they wouldn't eat until we had their food. So we made it wasn't on camera, it was off camera. I said, why don't we all have food? Why don't we have our dinner together? For the last night, we'll all eat as a one family. And I have to say, they went for that and they loved it. Really did love it. I don't know if there's any more I can say. But Deepest, thanks very much for inviting me here tonight. I'm doing a sponsorship walk. It hasn't been finalised yet. I'll let Deepest know. But if you can do it like an international walk, my route was the 27. It goes from Georgetown to Rings End. I don't think I'll get permits to walk through the city, but if I can even get a bus pulled around Tallinn, it's to raise money for the family home, the father's farm, the house after the aftershocks. It's unsafe for trying to sleep in, so I made a promise to him that I'll raise as much money as I can for him to knock down the building and get a new house, because it's gone through 4 or 5 generations. So that's what we're going to do. Thanks for that. When the walk is on, I'll pull a bus around that we can do internationally between the 2 communities. Once again, thanks very much.
Thanks really, Chris, for that. That was great. My name's Hannah Dennison. I'm emceeing along with Alison. Big thanks to Alison for so far. It was brilliant. Set standard high. I just a bit about myself, just quickly. Last year I went to Everest Space Camp, and I thoroughly enjoyed the experience. I highly recommend it to anyone that's once or thinking about it this year. I'm honoured to be asked to be here. Just up next, I'm just going to quickly introduce John Burke and Evelyn Gerhy. Evelyn, sorry. So they're going to talk about their upcoming adventure to Nepal, and Evelyn is trekking to Everest Base Camp, and John on to the summit of Everest. So I'd like to wish them the very best of luck, and if you'd like to come up and start your presentation, it'd be brilliant.
Thank you very much, everybody, for having me here in Nepal, everybody involved in Nepal Ireland Society. It's a great honour to be here speaking about a place that I'm very passionate about. I suppose I'll speak about Nepal from a mountaineering perspective. That's what brought me up there in the first place, and I suppose a little bit of a background to my own background with mountains. But about 10 years ago, I kind of developed a passion for mountaineering, and through an article I read from Pat Falvey, and he spoke about Everest, and he spoke about his experiences there, and I said, you know, that's a dream, that's something I'd love to aim for. Little did I think that I'd be here preparing for it. I wouldn't say by any means. It's a certainty, it's certainly there's loads of challenges ahead, but look, I'm really delighted to be at the stage where I'm confident that I'm going out, and I'm confident that I'm prepared. But over the last 10 years I've been climbing mountains around Ireland and in Europe and in different parts of the world, and I just love it as an activity. I just love the escapism of it, and the peace and the quiet and the serenity. I work in an environment where I'm surrounded by people, and I just love just getting away to the mountains. And I suppose that's what brought me to Nepal the first time. I was with Avian, and we did a trek in 2011 to Everest Base Camp, and Avian's going to talk a little bit about that. And when I got there, I just fell in love with the area. I fell in love with the people, the food, the culture, the spirituality of it, the serenity of it, the scenery. It just had everything that I loved, and it epitomised mountaineering and a mountaineering holiday. So I suppose I'll focus on my last trip to Nepal, which was in 2015, and I climbed this beautiful peak, Ama Dablam. I'll just flick to the next slide. That'll be great. So Ama Dablam is a beautiful mountain. It's 6,812 meters high. It's regarded as a fairly technical climb. So I've done a lot of prep over the years in France and in the Alps and places for this, and it was a great adventure to get out there. It's regarded as the most beautiful mountain in the world by a lot of people who write about mountains, and it's just the shape of the mountain and how it stands out from its environment and the area around it is just spectacular. As some people call it the Matterhorn of the Himalayas, which the Matterhorn was one of the mountains that I climbed to prepare for it. And it's in Nepalese or in Sherpa, it translates as Mother's Necklace. And it's just the shape of the mountain. They believe that it's like a mother's arms reaching out, and the necklace being the glacier that comes off the top. So the most beautiful part being the necklace, which is also the most dangerous part of the mountain. It's a glacier that's active coming from the top of the mountain, and it's a place that you try to move past as quickly as possible when you're beside it. So we'll take the next slide, right? So I have a selection of photos here. So the top photo here just is a beautiful picture. And the first time I saw Ama Dablam, I was visiting, it was when we were in Nepal doing the Everest Base Camp trek. And after about day 3 or 4, it just stands out. And the first time we saw it, the sun was hitting it, and the mountain was just glistening. And it was from this perspective here. And it just looked amazing. And I remember turning around to Ang Babu, the Sherpa, the guy that was with us at the time, and naively I said, you know, has that ever been climbed? I said, it just looks so hard and it looks so spectacular. And he told me the story, and he said, look, you know, it's an achievable objective for somebody who's into mountaineering. And with that then, I came home and I started doing some research. And I saw some more beautiful pictures like this, which is Camp 2 on Ama Dablam. And all the other spectacular pictures. This is me here in a section of it, just moving up towards Camp 3. But you've got these beautiful features all around the mountain. So after I started researching it, I came across this picture, which, as I said, is Camp 2. So here you can see the tents just at the top of this camp. And I said, if there was ever a place to spend the night in a tent, it has to be here. This has to be the most spectacular campsite in the world, and it certainly was. It lived up to all its expectations. You climb up along, it's Camp 2, so it's a bit of work to get there, but when you climb up along and when you stand there and you look around and you look at the scenery and you look at the views, it's just something spectacular. This photo is taken as you move up past it, so you climb up onto Camp 2 and then you drop down and then you move back up towards the summit. I also say it's the smelliest, which is an issue there, but it's quite a confined space. So over years and years of mountaineering expeditions, everyone is using the same space, and in the middle of the night you don't want to wander too far for the toilet when you're up here. So you generally try to find the closest place to you, and over years I suppose it builds up, but it's the only part of the mountain that I could describe as smelly. The rest of the mountain is spectacular, and it's pristine and it's beautiful, but it's amazing, you know, it's kind of, be careful what you wish for. I just couldn't wait till I got up to Camp 2, and I couldn't wait till I got to stay in this, and then just when you're getting closer, you're like, oh wow, that's the smell I heard about. But it's a spectacular location. So the first part, like with all the mountains in the Himalayas, generally you have to trek in. So with Ahmed Abram, we flew to Lukla, and Aidan's going to talk a lot about the trek because we share the same route as the Everest Base Camp trek for much of the part. And the trekking environment is just amazing. This is just a picture I found, and just shows the scenery, and as you're surrounded by the Himalayan grades, the highest mountains in the world, surrounded by great people, in an environment where you've got, these are our yaks, which work as porters for climbers, and for the locals up there as well, bringing food in and out for the people who have businesses there. So very, very hard working, just like everybody that seems to be in the Khumbu Valley. But it's a spectacular trek. It took about 5 days to trek into base camp. We thoroughly enjoyed it. I'd been on the base camp trek before, so kind of know its experience and could really enjoy it. Very enjoyable evenings, playing cards, having chats. Tried no beers. I was going to say beers. There was no beers at that stage. On the way back out, a few, but on the way in, we kept fairly disciplined. Just another picture of the Khumbu Valley. So you meet all this scenery, and I think sunset is probably the most spectacular time in the Khumbu Valley, when you get these beautiful scenes and these beautiful colours, where all the mountains glisten, and it just shows you what a special place you're in. So when we got to base camp, after about 5 days, we arrived in, and I climbed with Saint Himalayas. So Saint Himalayas are a Sherpa-owned company. They're owned by Mingma Sherpa, who has 19 Everest summits under his belt. He's one of the most experienced mountaineers on Everest. He is himself and his brother lead Ascent Himalayas. Pasang has 9 Everest summits. It's great to see the Sherpa community developing these great businesses, and you know, I feel like they were, you know, one of the strongest operators on the mountain. They've just got an incredible record. So not only are they the Sherpa community and the Nepalese community setting up their own businesses in the mountaineering, which was traditionally kind of dominated by the Western companies, but they're doing it really well. They're aiming for really high qualifications. Pasang is an IFMGA qualified guide, and so many more of the guides that work with them are at that really high standard, which is the highest standards you can get to in European guiding. So when we arrived in, nobody's climbing any of these mountains really without the team of Sherpas, unless you have a lot of time in your hands. When we arrived in, our base camp was set up. We had beautiful mess tents. This is our dining tent here. We spent a lot of time playing cards. We used to play 1,000 games of cards. And we hung out there and we chatted, and it was just very peaceful. We slept in these quite high tents. This is actually photos taken out from my tent. A yak came to visit us one day. He was wandering through. This is the Puja ceremony. This is the area where they operate the ceremony from. So there was a lot of kind of treats and bits and pieces left there. So he was helping himself to the buffet. So we have these really comfortable tents. This is our kind of enclosed area here for Ascent Himalayas. There was probably, I think we had a team of about 8 or 9 altogether from different countries. And what was really special about this was when you're at base camp, you can see right up to the mountains, so you never forget what you're there for. It's probably very daunting, and it's something I'm trying to work on forever, is just trying to keep that really positive mental attitude, because when you're here and you're looking up, it just looks like it's a world apart. It feels like you've trekked to get there, you've taken flights to get there, and it just feels like you're a world apart from it. But it's to stay positive and to keep focused and look step by step when you get there. So base camp was really enjoyable. It's very relaxed. There is a bit of tension at times. People have their own concerns, people have their own worries, and there are other expeditions. There was 5 or 6 other expeditions in the area, and they've got their own challenges, and there were some rescues going on and different things like that. But you just stay positive. You stay with your group of friends. It's important to have a kind of a team spirit there, and you spend time together and lots of cards. As I said, that kind of breaks down all language barriers as well, I think. So once we got to base camp, we had a few days to rest and to settle in. And then these are the various camps up along Dublin. So we have base camp at 4,500, high camp at 5,000. Now there's nothing at high camp, it's not used anymore. Camp 1, 5,600. Camp 2, 5,900 metres. Camp 3 is seldom used anymore, and then right up to the summit. So for our first acclimatisation trek, so when you arrive at base camp, like with any mountain in the Himalayas, the key is to acclimatise. As the Sherpa said, it's not the strong legs that get you up the mountain, it's the strong lungs, and it's having your system working to its maximum potential. So everything about being there, it's about allowing your body to adjust and allowing the red blood cells to build up and allowing yourself to adjust and prepare yourself as much as possible. So as part of that, you do acclimatisation treks. So first trek was just up to high camp, a very easy day. We walked up, we spent a bit of time there. Now, when I say very easy, anything at altitude is a struggle, but it was technically straightforward, and you could chat on the way up, and we spent some time up there relaxing, just allowing the body, putting the body under a bit of pressure so that it started to adjust. So we went up to high camp and back down. The first day we rested a few days after that. Then we did some technical training very close by, preparing for a technical section called the Yellow Tower. The second acclimatisation trip up, then we went from base camp, we went straight to Camp 1. We stayed at Camp 1 then for a night, and we went on to Camp 2. We touched Camp 2, as they say, which means you just get up as far as there, spend 10 or 15 minutes there. We dropped back down, stayed at Camp 1, and then descended down to base camp. So on the acclimatisation treks, you feel like your body is under so much pressure, and you just feel like you're just, again, that you're a world apart from reaching the top. But every time you put your body under pressure, it reacts and it adjusts and it becomes stronger. So particularly between Camp 1 and 2 on that acclimatisation trek was a challenge. There's a vertical rock section about 30 metres high, and that's quite challenging. But we came back to base camp, and then we rested again for about 4 or 5 days. We were waiting for our weather window then, and waiting for everything to kind of be prepared. And after that, then we met our summit push. So we'll go again. Thanks, Lokesh. So before our summit push, and actually before our acclimatisation, we had a puja ceremony. This lasted a number of hours, and this was at base camp, and the Lama from a local village came up, and it was a very spiritual experience. There was you're looking up at the mountain, and whatever your religion may be, you can't help but be touched by the spirituality of what's happening here. The Sherpas, this is Pasang here, who's came to Ireland last year as well, and I've climbed with him in Scotland as well before, but I got to know Pasang. He's very easygoing, very kind of jolly, cheeky chappy kind of a guy, but for Pasang and for everybody there, it was a very, very spiritual occasion. They put massive effort into preparing the puja area, and they take the blessings really, really serious, and it can't but affect you. So I suppose you say your own prayers. It's hard to join in with their prayers, but you say your own prayers while you're there, and you hope that everything will go well. We get a blessing piece here, which I'm still wearing, and the Lama gets some beers and some whiskey as well. So I think that keeps him encouraged as well along the way. We offer some rice, and we offer some cakes and some biscuits, and that for the offering as well. So it lasts about a few hours. It's like meditation in a way. The Lama's reading prayer books, and it's just very rhythmical, and you're looking up and you get time alone, which is really, really special. So as we were leaving from base camp, this was us moving up along the mountains. The packs, we had a certain amount of gear here. This is Gavin here that was with me. So as you can see, we're wearing reasonable kind of weight packs. So every time you were moving up, when you were acclimatising and moving up the next time, you're bringing up different items. So for the acclimatisation trek, we brought up our heavy boots, so that when you were going up the second time, you could travel in your light boots and you were conserving some energy. You bring up your sleeping bags, you bring up your mats, and then the Sherpa guides and porters would also bring up the remainder of the gear. You didn't have to carry any food. The Sherpas looked after all that. To be honest, as I said, we weren't, any of us here weren't going to climb that without the support of the Sherpas. They're the heroes of the mountains, and we're just the people that they bring there and allow to climb it with them. So this was on our way up to Camp 1. It's a very easy trail, very straightforward, but as I can see, you're looking up at the mountain all the time. Up at Camp 1 here, then this was our tent here. So it's pitched on the side of the mountain. You still have a good bit of altitude to gain here, even though it looks quite close. But they pitch the tents here. They kind of build them up. So once you're on rock, you feel fairly safe, but sometimes you might feel overly safe. But they build up a flat platform on the side of the mountain. And I suppose they use them year after year, but every time the Sherpas, when we get there, this is done, the tents are set up, and it was perfect. You could sleep perfectly inside there. I've been lucky so far on different expeditions that I've acclimatized well. Some people don't acclimatize too well, and maybe the next time I won't, but I managed to sleep really comfortably in here. Well, on the acclimatization trek, we're in a different tent, and it was at a bit more of a slope. So instead of sleeping this way, you kind of had to sleep this way so you wouldn't roll out. But it was fine. We slept great. So Camp 1 is perfect, very comfortable and lots of space. And you climbed up high here, and you could get the views down to base camp. You could get the views all around you. I think we even had phone signal up here, and we were able to send some messages home and things like that as well off our Nepali sims. That's Camp 1. This is the Sherpa team here. They were with us, the climbing Sherpas, so they were chilling out in their tent. There was stove, everybody. When you get up high, the food was getting a lot more straightforward. So we were having noodle soup and garlic soup, and we were having maybe porridge for breakfast. We had meals where you just add the hot water, and then we had our own snacks with us as well. So the food was getting a lot more straightforward. It's hard to get water out there, and it's sometimes hard to find the ice to melt. So the food becomes straightforward. As you get higher, your appetite is going anyway, but you kind of have to force yourself to keep taking on board some calories. But it was spectacular, and just being there with the Sherpas and being there as part of the team was very, very special. So this is Pasang. Just like this picture of just how relaxed he was here having a cigarette. I was struggling here away. I was going through a November moment there as well with myself. But that's not ice, that's sunscreen, but I sent that picture home and everyone felt sad for this. They said, God, your face is going to be all frostbitten with all the ice. But, it was just sunscreen, but to Pasang it's no problem. I mean, the Sherpa community, look, they spend their time in the mountains, but they're genetically prepared and built for the mountain environment. Not only are they relatively comfortable at these altitudes anyway. I think everybody struggles once you get up into the 7,000 plus or 8,000 meter region. But at this altitude, Pasang was very, very comfortable and able to take his cigarette breaks as he went along. So this was a nice technical section. It wasn't quite the Yellow Tower, which is the most technical, but on Ama Dablam there's a lot of exposure. There's fixed rope all the way along, just like there is on Everest and on most of the Himalayan mountains. The Sherpa team have fixed rope. Now the rope is used year after year, so again, Pasang being a leader on the mountains, he was very conscious to cut away the old fixed rope and prepare new fixed rope when necessary. But once you left Camp 1, you had a lot of these sections all the way along where you're just trusting the fixed rope, you're leaning on it, you're rock climbing up sections. Here you're just putting all your weight on your hands and you're just kind of using your feet to glide across and to cross to traverse a section like that. But it was fine, you felt safe all the time on it. The most technical part, as I said, is the Yellow Tower. It's about 30 meters and it's fairly vertical, it's 80 degrees I suppose. And you climb for about the first 5 meters and then you're on the fixed rope for safety. And then our Sherpa team wanted us to kind of to make a pendulum movement out across it, so you just had to trust the rope and you just had to swing, and it was kind of open below you. So you took this pendulum swing out to get onto the next section to climb up, which was very exhilarating. At that altitude, any movement is exhilarating, but when you're trusting all the ropes and you're swinging out across, and it's 3 or 4 kilometers, 3 or 4,000 meters down below you, it's going to be nerve-wracking. But you climb on and you get through that section, and that's a big challenge to get through. Once you get to the top of the Yellow Tower, you know you have the most technical part of Ama Dablam done, and then it just comes down to the slog, I suppose, to get to the top. This was, as it gets dark, or as the sun goes down, you get the scenery. It's the same at base camp. Once the sun goes down, you just feel like the cloud is moving in on the valley, and in the space of about 15 minutes, it goes from wearing a t-shirt to having your down jacket and your hat and your underlayers and everything on. It can get quite chilly, but again, you get some great selfie moments like that there as well. This was another section. This was going from, so we slept at Camp 2 on the summit night, and then we moved on to move up the mountain. This is moving up towards Camp 3, which we didn't sleep in. You try not to sleep in Camp 3 because it's a dangerous location. So we were thankfully strong enough that we didn't need to use Camp 3 as most people don't. But actually, interestingly, here I remember we were sitting under this before we looked up and saw the icicles, and then we were kind of decided it's probably not the ideal spot to take a break. So we moved on up. There's some nice bit of climbing up along the side of it there, but it's just spectacular. I travelled there alone just to get to that scene alone. So this is moving up past. So that picture was taken somewhere down around here, and then you move up along and you move up along here, and you can see the red arrow. That's some people. I don't know if it's us or not, to be honest, but it was taken around the time we're out there. But these are people moving up along towards the summit. So Camp 3 is just below that, where you don't use, but you take a break and you kind of rehydrate and take some food on board. At that stage, you're not really eating much, but you're taking energy gels and things like that. And this was us here. This was the scene that every morning you wake up at base camp. And one of the expeditions beside it had this really powerful telescope, and you'd look through in the morning, you'd go for your breakfast at 8 a.m, and you'd see people moving up along here. And I remember the first day, you'd look at them and you'd see them moving so slow, and you'd say, oh my God, there isn't a chance they're going to make it. But you'd go for your breakfast, you'd come back, and they'd barely have moved up a bit. And then you just realise day after day, you see, look, most people get through it, they just slog along and you kind of get through it. But at this stage, you're feeling the altitude and you're feeling a bit more pressure on the body. But it's not super high altitude, but it's the pressure is definitely on at this stage. And you just slog and you just push away through it, and step by step gets you there. You feel safe once you get past this glacier section here, which is where sometimes chunks of ice might fall off. Once you kind of get out of that danger zone here, you feel really safe. And to be honest, you can feel safe when you've got the right guides and when you're prepared. You can feel confident and you can feel safe. But this was spectacular when you get up along here and you know you've got the end in sight, and you know you're on your final push to the summit. It was very special. It takes forever still to get to the top. You could be still another 4 or 5 hours maybe to get to the top there, but eventually you get there and you get through it. This was a photo from that section.